Okay, we're going to do a lesson on domain here. And domain basically means what values of x or t, or basically what values can we plug into our function and actually get an answer out. So like if I put them in my calculator and I said, alright, t equals this or x equals that, it would give me a number and not just an error. But basically it's more about finding out what values you're not allowed to plug in. So you need to look and say, can we ever divide by 0? And can we ever square root a negative? That's essentially what you're looking for here. So like in f of x here, f of x says f of x equals x squared plus 5x. Notice no denominator involving a variable and no square root anywhere. So as soon as I see that, I just say all real. Because I could plug in any number and I would get an answer. Like if I plugged in 100 squared plus 5 times 100, I would get 1. So I get 10,000 plus 500, so I'd get 10,500. And if I plugged in negative 100, then the answer would end up being 9,500. And if I plugged in 0, I'd get 0. So whether it's really, really positive or really, really negative or 0, I get all real. And assuming we can trust that trend and the fact that there's no division by 0 possible and no square root of a negative possible, we would just say the domain is all real numbers. Okay? Whereas in g of x here, we now have a denominator involving x, or in this case x squared. So we need to know what values for x squared minus 4 would make it equal to 0. So we solve for x squared by adding 4 to both sides, and then we square root, and you get x equals plus or minus 2. What that really means is that if you plug in positive 2 or if you plug in negative 2, you end up with a 0. And that would make you divide by 0. Let me show you. So we have 3 times 2 over 2 squared minus 4. Well, then that becomes 6 over 0, which you're not allowed to do. So what we'd say is we have a domain of x's provided that x cannot equal plus or minus 2. And that would be our answer. Okay? Here, h of t, we have 4 minus 3t. And what we need to know is how do we keep this value under the radical greater than or equal to 0. We need it to be greater than or equal to 0. So we set it on the opposite side of greater than or equal to 0. And we solve. Subtract 4, you end up with negative 3t greater than or equal to negative 4. Okay? Then you divide by negative 3, divide by negative 3, and now we need to flip our inequality symbol. So we end up with t less than or equal to 4/3. So what does that tell me? Well, that tells me that I have all t's provided that t is less than or equal to 4/3. Because I know if I plug in 4/3 for t, let's see what happens. We get 4 minus 3 times 4/3. My 3's cancel. I end up with square root of 4 minus 4, which is 0. And that's okay, because that would equal 0. But if I did something larger than 4/3, well, then this whole thing becomes a negative number, which is not okay. It becomes imaginary. And just one quick note, if this had been 1 over the square root of 4 minus 3t, then you would take away the equal sign. You would still have the same domain. You would set the 4 minus 3t less than or equal to 0 and solve, but you would actually have to take the equal part away. So you just make it less than 0. So you treat it exactly the same as we did above, but it would be 4 minus 3t is less than 0. So in this case, we're actually going to be t is less than 4/3. Okay? So our domain's there, and then the domain above here. Alright? Hope that helps.